our topic will already be the introduction. Ito na talaga yung sa radical na lesson natin. So we will start with the lesson about radical expression. So we'll discuss what do we mean by radical expression, how do this expression look like, and we'll be focusing for extracting the roots of a perfect square, a perfect cube, etc. So yung etc. na yan, yun yung perfect power of 5 and power 4. So, gagamitin din natin yung ginawa nyo sa notebook ninyo kung saan nagkumpleto kayo ng table sa perfect squares, perfect cube, tsaka perfect power of 4 and power of 5. Yung nirecall natin sila. So, before we start with the actual lesson, so i-recall ko muna yung pinagawa ko sa inyo last time. So, pinahanda ko na sa inyo yan para ngayon madali na natin siyang magagamit pagdating sa lesson natin. So let's recall how do we identify or create the perfect squares from 1 to 20. So we'll try to get the square of each of the number. For example, kuhain natin yung square ni 3. So we denote it as 3 squared or 3 raised to 2. So that will just be equal to 3 times 3, wherein 3 times 3 is equal to 9. So diyan natin malalagyan ng sagot kapag in-square natin si 3 o yung perfect square ni 3. And for example, we have naman 16. So if we square 16, that will be the same as 16 times 16, which is equal to 256. So, dyan naman natin malalagyan ng sagot kapag sa katapat ni 16. And if you were able to finish this on your notebook, yan, very good, Marvin. If you were able to finish this on your notebook, ganyan yung magiging kompleto na itsura niya. Itong mga binilugan ko ng kulay red, yan yung mga tinatawag nating perfect squares. At yan yung kukuhaan natin ng roots ngayong araw. At malalaman nyo kung ano ibig sabihin ng sinasabi kong roots pagdating sa math sa lesson natin ngayon. So as we proceed, I also ask you to complete this table, but this time, ang exponent na gagamitin natin ay 3 or yung raised to 3 o yung tinatawag nating cube. Kaya tinawag natin itong mga example natin na perfect cube. So for example, yung 8 yung ni-raise natin sa 3, ginawa natin siyang 8 cube or 8 raised to 3. That is also the same as 8 times 8 times 8. And 8 times 8 times 8 is equal to 512. So doon natin makukuha yung 512 dito sa part na to. Ngayon, for example, we have naman 11 raised to 3 or 11 times 11 times 11. That will be equal to 1,331. Doon mo makukuha yung value niyan. So, ginagamit lang natin dito yung idea ng exponent. So, katulad ng mga ginawa natin from the previous lesson. So, kapag natapos mo tong table na to, nung pinagawa ko last time, you will have these different values. By the way, if you were able to use calculator in answering this one or in completing this table, walang problema kay Sir Valera yon. Kasi mas mabilis mo nga siya matatapos at mas accurate yung sagot mo kung gumamit ka ng calculator. So, hindi naman problema yun as long as you complete this table. Yan. So, these values on the left side of each table will be the perfect cube. Yan yung mga sagot pag kinub mo yung bawat number from numbers 1 to 20. And ito naman yung mga ni-raise natin kay 4, si 1 hanggang 10. So ginawa kong example si 2 raised to 4 wherein we multiply 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. That's equivalent to 2 raised to 4. And that's also equal to 16. So para makuha natin yung mga sagot dyan sa perfect power of 4, ganito yung ginawa. Ganito dapat yung gagawin mo sa bawat isa. So if you were able to complete that table, so ito yung mga perfect power of 4. 1, 16, 81, 256. And for the power of 5, ganito rin. So 2 raised to 5 naman, kasi power of 5 na siya. So if we interpret that one, that's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. That will be equal to 32. So 2 raised to 5 is equal to 32. Yan. So ito naman yung mga perfect powers of 5. So bakit natin to nire-recall? Ito ay dahil gagamitin natin tong mga perfect squares, perfect cube, and perfect powers of 4 and 5 sa lesson natin for today. But before we technically proceed kung saan natin magagamit to, Eric, aralin muna natin kung ano yung tinatawag nilang radical expression. So when we talk about radical expression, ito yung isa sa pinakasimpleng way kung paano ko siya maisusulat. So, ang pagkakabasa dito is nth root of b. So, ganyan mo siya babasahin. So, yung nth nang galing dito. Kasi yung n, napapalitan niya ng number. So, pwede siyang 2 kapag 2 square root, kapag 3 cube root, pag 4 fourth root. Depende sa value ni n. Kaya siya nth root of b. Ito yung b. And we'll discuss now the parts of this radical expression. And ayan na nga, lumabas na yung isa. That is what we call the index. So yung n natin, ang tawag natin dyan ay index. Yan yung number na nasa top left side ng ating radical sign. So itong nasa loob ng radical sign natin o nung symbol na to na kulay dilaw ay tinatawag naman nating radicand. By the way, the index kung makikita nyo dyan, it's greater than 1. Kasi ang pinakamaliit na value ni n ay dapat 2. Mamaya mapapansin niyo yan sa ibibigay kong example. Palaging 2 ang pinakamababang value na pwede kay n. Hindi siya pwedeng 1. Now, so once again, itong nasa loob ng radical sign is the radicand or we call it the radicand. And then, that symbol itself, coming from the word radical, so radical sign yung tawag sa kanya, yan yung kulay dilaw. So once again, this one is read as nth root of b. So index, radicand, and radical sign, those are the parts of a radical expression. Ngayon, bago tayo mag-simplify ng roots, or bago tayo mag-proceed dun sa part na kailangan na natin magsagot, let's try to somehow denote paano naman natin binabasa ang iba't ibang radical expression depende sa number or sa value ng ating index. I think familiar kayo dito. Nadaanan nyo siya nung grade 7. Yung salitang square root. So, this expression is read as square root of b. So, bakit ba square root? Saan mo makikita dyan yung square? So, technically, sabi ko kanina, ang pinakamababang value ng index natin, which is in this case, walang nakasulat kung anong number yan, walang index. Ang pinakamababang number niyan ay 2. Kaya siya tinawag na square root kasi 2 yung nandun sa kanya. Pero hindi siya sinusulat. Katulad yan ng x raised to 1. Di ba si 1 hindi na sinusulat? Katulad yan ng 1x. Di ba si 1 hindi na sinusulat? Ganyan pagdating kay square root. Di ba? Kapag walang nakalagay na index, it's automatically square root yung gagamitin nating term. Or yung index natin will be equal to 2. Ngayon, for the rest of the types of radical expression na may ibang value ng index, madaling i-identify katulad nito. Kapag nagkaroon ka ng term na cube root, kapag cube root yan, our index is 3. It's already obvious kasi nakalagay na. Hindi katulad ni square root na walang nakasulat. So, our index is equal to 3 when you call it cube root. Kaya siya cube root kasi cube yung ginagamit natin doon sa index niya. Next, we also have fourth root. Kapag fourth root naman, our index is equal to 4. Yan. So, this expression is read as fourth root of b. So, if you may ask me, sir, meron po bang fifth root, sixth root, seventh root, eighth root, and so on? Yes, meron. Depende yon sa number of or sa value ng index mo sa labas ng radical sign. So, kapag may nakalagay dyan na 5, edi fifth root yon. Kapag 10 yung nakalagay, edi 10th root yon. So, ganun natin binabasa ang ating radical expression. But for our next lesson, we'll just be focusing on around siguro pinakamataas na pagdating sa mga values yung fifth root. Yan, mamaya makakita kayo kung paano natin gagamitin sa fifth root. Ngayon, sa extracting roots of perfect squares, cubes, and etc., dito natin magagamit yung nilagay nyo sa notebook ninyo. Yung sinulat nyo na perfect squares, tsaka perfect cube, and perfect raised to 4 and 5. So, before I start with having this radical expression, I think you already have an idea on how to answer square root of 4. So, kung alam mo yung sagot, can you type it on your chat box? What do you think is the answer if I ask you square root of 4? Or what is the value of square root of 4? Tingin ko yung iba sa inyo meron ng idea. Gusto ko lang malaman kung anong ilalagay niyong sagot. So, si Darren may sagot na. So, if you don't know the answer, ano sa tingin niyo yung hula ninyo? Pwede niyo namang hulaan. Yan. Kindly type it on the chat box. Okay, so you are guessing 2. So, di ko alam kung 2 din yung sagot ng iba o nakita na nila na 2 yung sagot. So, ginaya na lang nila. Anyway, so the correct answer is 2. So, square root of 4 is equal to 2. But before we get that as a final answer, kuhain muna natin yung idea. Bakit 2 yung naging sagot? So, when we talk about roots or in this specifically square root, kapag square root yung pinag-uusapan natin, iisip ka ngayon ng number na pag ini-square mo, kasi nga square root eh, pag nag-square ka, ang sagot ay 4. So, ano yung number na yun? Pag ni-raise mo kay 2, ang sagot ay 4. Good thing, meron na tayong table. So, hanapin mo na lang dyan, nasan ba si 4? Ito. So, ano yung in-square mo dyan para maging 4? 2. So, 2 squared, the answer is 4. That means, the square root of 4 is 2. Yan. So, that's the idea of square root. You are reversing the idea of getting the exponent of 2. Or binabaligtad mo yung idea ng pag-square. Di ba pag nag-square ka, itinatimes mo sa sarili niya. Pero pag square root, eto na yung sagot, hanapin mo ano yung in-square mo para makuha yung number na yon o yung 4 na yon. So that's the idea of square roots. This is only the inverse or the reverse of having square. Sige nga, kung naintindihan nyo ako, what is the answer if I get the square root of 121? Kindly type it on the chat box. Square root of 121. Yan, bilis. So, nauna si Jerome. Okay. Square root of 121. The answer is, yan, tingnan natin. Ano ngayon yung number na kapag ni-raise ko kay 2 or in-square ko, ang sagot ay 121? Once again, madali na tong lesson na to, especially kapag meron kang kopya ng mga tables sa notebook mo. So, andito na yung table. Hanapin mo na lang dyan si 121. Ito, si 121. Ano yung in-square natin para maging 121? The answer is 11. That means, if you square, if you get the square root of 121, the answer is 11. So, ganun lang kadali. Especially kapag nasa notebook mo na yung mga values na to. Hindi ka na mahirapan sa lesson natin. So, nakita ko naman na maraming nagsasagot ng tamang sagot. So, I hope naintindihan nyo ako. Next, so gagamit naman ako ngayon ng perfect cubes na table. Bakit? Tignan nyo tong susunod kong tanong. So what do you think is the answer if I ask you, what's the cube root? It's 3 na. 3 na yung index natin. So cube root of 125. Bilis ni Raven. Ayan, okay. So followed by Darren. Then Jeneline. Yan. So what's the cube root of 125? If you answered, tignan natin yung iba. Okay, so dito, hindi ka na ngayon titingin dyan sa kulay green na table. Titingin ka na sa kulay blue. Bakit? Kasi ang pinag-uusapan na natin ay cube root. So ang titingnan natin mga values is yung nandun sa perfect cube. Kasi 3 na to eh. 3 na yung index mo. So ganun na. Kung ano yung tanong, dun ka sa table titingin. So dito, square root, kasi square yung table natin kasi square root siya. Dito, cube root, ang gagamitin nating table yung sa perfect cube. So ano dyan yung may value na 125? Ito. Sino yung kinube natin para maging 125? That will be 5. So ayan siya. So the answer for the cube root of 125 is 5. Very good. So very good yung mga nagsagot. Next question. What do you think is the positive negative cube root of 729? Ang bilis ni Charlie. Naka-ready? Okay, so ayan, followed by Mervin and Janelle. Yan, so the cube root of 729. Yan, sige, pwede pang umabol. Okay, so nagigets nung iba yung ating lesson. Madali lang yan, sa table ka lang titingin. What's the cube root? So ang titignan mo dyan, since it's cube, ang gagamitin mo yung kulay blue. Kasi cube root siya. Okay. So, analyze natin ulit yung sagot. So, ano yung number na kapag kinube ko, or pag ni-raise ko kay 3, ang sagot ay 729. So, hanapin mo lang dito sa table. Asan dyan 729? Ito. So, ano yung number na yun na kinube mo para maging 729? So, that will be 9. Yan. So, If you got the value 9 or you type on the chat box 9, tama yung sagot mo. Pero, baka naman hindi nyo nakita to, si plus minus. Diyan tayo nagkulang. So, tatandaan nyo kapag merong plus minus or positive negative sa unahan, ilalagay nyo lang siya dun sa sagot. So, tama yung sagot ninyo, dagdagan nyo lang ng plus minus sa unahan. If ever na meron siya sa question. Okay po. Next. So, gagamit naman ako ng power of 4 na table. Bakit? Because my next question will be, what will be the fourth root of 2,401? Bilis ni Charlie. Naka-ready na eh. Titignan mo na lang, di ba? So, ganun lang kadali yung lesson natin, especially if you already have the table. So, the fourth root of 2,401, yan, very good. Dumadami na yung sumasagot sa atin. Nagigets nyo na yung lesson. So, we are having fourth root. So, gagamit tayo ng raised to 4 or power of 4 na table. So, the fourth root of ano yung number na pag ni-raise natin kay 4, ang sagot ay 2,401. So, dito sa table na to, makikita natin, ang ni-raise natin dyan ay si 7. So, 7 raised to 4 is equal to 2,401. So, from that, ang sagot natin sa fourth root of 2,401 is 7. So, for those who answered 7, very good. Yan. So, proceed na tayo sa next set of examples. Next, so, ito naman yung tanong ni Sir Valera. What do you think is the answer if I ask you the square root of negative 25? Sige, pwede nyo i-type yung sagot. By the way, wala na yung table dito ha. Dapat nasa notebook nyo yan. Okay, si Raven. Ano yan, Raven? Negative 5? Ayan, sige. Negative 5 yung sagot ni Raven. How about the others? Mervin answered negative 5. Yan, Jeneline, negative 5. Okay. So, I see a lot of answers. It's either 5 or positive 5 or negative 5. So, tingnan natin. Balik tayo sa ginagawa nating idea kanina. Para makuha natin yung sagot, iisip tayo ng number na kapag in-square natin, ang sagot dapat ay negative 25. So, kung isipin natin mabuti, pag nilagay mo dyan, positive 5 yung sagot mo, 5 squared is also equal to 5 times 5. Which is 5 times 5 is equal to positive 25. And this is not equal to negative 25. So this one is wrong. Hindi pwedeng 5 yung value. So paano kapag negative 5? So negative 5 times negative 5. Negative times negative is still positive. So the answer here will still be positive 25. Hindi siya negative. So mali din si negative 5. Yan, si Charlie may idea sa sagot. Yes, the answer would be imaginary, but we'll go through that lesson in the future sa mga susunod natin lesson. But for now, hindi pwedeng positive 5, hindi pwedeng negative 5. Ang tanong, ano yung ilalagay natin? Yan. So, isipin nating mabuti. Kapag nagmumultiply tayo ng number sa sarili niya, which is also the same as the idea of making it square, palaging positive yung sagot. Never nagiging negative yung sagot natin, especially if we're dealing with real numbers. So, hindi pwede maging negative. So, ano yung magiging sagot natin dyan? Not real. Or in other words, the answer will be imaginary, the same as the answer of Charlie. But for now, ang palagi dapat nating sasagot kapag ganyan yung case is not real. We cannot think of a number that if we multiply it to itself, the answer will be negative. It's always positive when it comes to squaring a number. Okay, next question. What is the fourth root of negative 256? Sige nga, what's your answer? Yan, so may sagot na si Charlie. Ano sa tingin nyo? Pwede kayong tumingin sa table? Kung meron kayong table dyan. Okay, may sagot si Jeneline, si Darren. Yan, very good. So, a lot of you answered not real. Because, yes, pwedeng positive 4. 4 times 4 times 4 is equal, kasi 4 raised to 4 yan eh. But it's equal to positive 256. Kahit negative 4 yan, positive 256 pa rin. So you can think of a number that if you raise it to 4, the answer is negative 256. So, very good if you answered not real. Next question. What do you think is the answer if I ask you the cube root of negative 27? Okay, may sagot na si Charlie. Oh, what's the answer? Yan. Cube root of negative 27. Okay. So, a lot of you answered not real. Ayan, nadala ng idea ng not real. Balik tayo sa idea kanina. Actually, the correct answer is negative 3. You will think of a number that if you raise it to 3, the answer is negative 27. Hindi not real yung sagot. Meron. Negative 3. Tignan natin ha. Negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. Negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. Then, times negative 3, the answer is negative 27. Ah, pasok. Meron. Ang pagkakaiba nito, ito square root, ito fourth root, ito cube root. Iba yan. So, hindi pa laging not real yung sagot. Okay po. Next question. Fifth root of negative 32. Yan. What do you think is the answer? Fifth root of negative 32. Darren says negative 6. Yan. Cyrus. Yan. Very good. Jeneline, Cyrus, and Ederlyn. I hope walang exponent yan. No? Baka napindot lang. Junel, yan. Jerome, the correct answer is negative 2. Yes, if you raise negative 2 to 5, it will become negative 32. So, the fifth root of negative 32 is negative 2. Ngayon, sir, nakakalito. Kasi merong sagot not real, merong sagot negative. So, gawan natin ng summary or gawan natin ng idea kung kailan tayo magsasagot ng not real tsaka kailan tayo magsasagot ng negative number depende dun sa value. If you observe from these two given examples, their index is 2 and 4. They are said to be even numbers. Now, if the index is even, then the negative real numbers do not have any real nth root. So, kapag even yung index, hindi ka pwede magkaroon ng negative dun sa ating radicand unless magiging not real yung magiging sagot natin. So, doon nagkakaroon ng not real. Kapag even yung index tapos negative yung nasa loob ng ating radical sign or yung ating tinatawag na radicand. Ngayon, kapag naman ang index natin ay 3, 5, 7, 9 or what we call the odd numbers, that means whatever the sign of the radicand will be the sign of the answer. So if the index is odd, then the nth root of a negative number is still negative. So kapag kinuha mo yung cube root ni 27, ang sagot niya positive 3. Ang pagkakaiba lang naman ni negative 27 kay 27 is the sign. So kapag add yung index niya, kung ano yung sign sa loob, yun din yung sign ng sagot. Kung negative 32 to, negative yung magiging sagot natin because the index is an odd number. So yun yung rule natin when it comes to having a negative sign inside the radical expressions. Okay, so for the last set of examples, let's try to somehow mix the idea of getting or extracting the roots pagdating naman sa variables. What do you think is the square root of x raised to 6? Yan, balik tayo sa idea kanina. Ano kaya yung expression na pag ni-raise ko kay 2 ang sagot x raised to 6? Sige, ano sa tingin nyo? Ito variables na yung pinag-uusapan natin. What do you think is the value that if I raise it to 2, the answer is x raised to 6? Very good, Lord Cyrus. So the answer is x raised to 3. Kung naalala nyo yung power of a power rule, kapag naka-raise ng dalawang beses, we multiply 3 times 2, the answer is 6. So ang idea dyan, pwede mo siyang hulaan. Iisip ka ng number na pag minultiply kay 2, ang sagot ay 6. Sa ganun. Pwede mo siyang hulaan ng ganun. Or, bigyan ko na kayo ng shortcut. The index, kapag walang nakalagay, ay 2. Ang gagawin mo lang, 6 divided by 2. The answer is 3. So, our answer is x raised to 3. Dinidivide lang yung exponent sa loob dun sa index natin. Okay, so how about negative a raised to 8, b raised to 4? Ano sa tingin niyo yung sagot? Gamit yung idea sa taas na ginawa natin. Dinivide lang yung exponent ng nasa loob dun sa index. By the way, kapag walang nakalagay na index, automatically ang index natin ay 2. So, lagay ko dyan. 2 yung index natin. Okay, so what do you think is the answer? Yan. If, Darren, your answer is negative a raised to 4 and b raised to 2, you're correct. Tama yung sagot mo. Mahirap kasi maglalagay ng square, di ba, pagdating sa chat box. Yes, the correct answer is negative a raised to 4, b raised to 2. Yan, ang gagawin lang natin is, i-divide natin dito. 8 divided by 2, the answer is 4. So we have, lagay lang muna natin negative sa labas. So, a raised to 4. Then, ito namang 4, di-divide sa 2. Then, 4 divided by 2. So, we have 2. So, b raised to 2. So, our final answer is negative a raised to 4, b raised to 2. Very good. So, very good, Darren, Mervin, Jerome, and Jeneline. Okay, so next. Positive, negative, square root of 25, x raised to 10, y squared. Okay, para hindi kayo malito, lagyan na natin ng index. Pag walang index, pwede nyo lagay 2. Kasi automatically kapag walang index, square root yun. Sige, what do you think is the answer? Darren says positive, negative, 5, x raised to 5 ba yan? Y? Okay, so I assume ganun yung sagot mo, Darren and Mervin. Nagkamali ata ng pindot si Mervin. Dapat ata negative yan, hindi equals, no? Yan. Okay, so paano natin siya ulit gagawin? Una, kuhain mo muna. Lagay mo muna natin dito positive, negative. Then, ano muna yung square root ni 5? Ang square root ni 5, katulad sa lesson natin kanina, ay 5. Then, divide natin. 10 divided by 2. So, that will be equal to 5. So, this will be x raised to 5. Then, y squared. So, 2 divided by 2. This will be equal to 1. So, magiging y raised to 1. Eh, di ba kapag 1, kahit hindi na natin ilagay, so, pwede na natin sa final answer natin, ito yung magiging itsura niya. Positive, negative 5, x raised to 5 times y. So, very good, Darren and Mervin. Last question. Paano naman to? Cube root. Cube root of negative 27, x raised to 15, y raised to 12. Sige nga. So, clue. Pwede nyo na makuha yung cube root ni negative 27. May sagot tayo dyan kanina. Anong cube root ni negative 27? Negative 3. Yan. Tama. Jeneline and Raven. Negative 3. So, bilis ni Darren, no? Alam niyo na kung sinong tatanungin kapag may assignment dito, ha? Si Darren, tsaka sila Jeneline, tsaka si Mervin, ha? Okay, so it's negative 3. Then dito, nakasulat naman na yung index na 3. So doon na lang tayo magde-divide. So ang exponent ni x ay 15. So 15 divided by 3, the answer is 5. So ang exponent ni x natin ay 5. Then 12 divided by 3 is 12 divided by 3 is equal to 4. So ang exponent ng y natin ay 4. So very good if you answered negative 3, x raised to 5, y raised to 4. Yan, Charlie, ano lang, it's ano na, it's cube root. Siguro na lito lang sa number. Pero your exponents are correct for x and y. Yan, so, si Jerome baka nagkamali lang ng divide. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Yan. Ayan, tama si Mervin. It's negative 3x raised to 5, y raised to 4. And that will be it for extracting the roots. For you to practice this one, I'll be giving you this exercise worksheet. You can take a screenshot of it right now